My name is Brendan Banfield. I shot him. He stabbed her.
Your wife has died.
Is the defendant going to testify, Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me?
Yes.
He is going to testify.
We've got defendant Brendan Banfield set to testify in his own defense. What he needs to say to sway the jury in the au pair affair murder trial. Plus, she dedicated her career to helping sex assault survivors, but the prosecution says that Christine Banfield's own life ended in a disturbing, violent plot. We're talking about the tragic irony that we're learning this morning. Also this hour, arrested at Chick-fil-A. New details emerging in the investigation with Dr. Michael McKee. Plus, a trial date is set in the federal trial for Luigi Mangione. We'll talk about what the jury selection process will look like. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you are staying safe and warm this morning. We're so glad to have you here. We've put together a great show for you, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, whatever you're having this morning. It's time for my opening statement. Mr. Taxman wants to talk. Former IRS agent Brendan Banfield wants to tell his side of the story to the jury. Oh, I can't wait for this, my friends. His expert witness on Friday testified that no catfishing occurred. Let's think about this. If there was no catfishing by the defendant and the au pair, then that means that Christine Banfield asked for that situation herself. This makes me mad. I see this as victim blaming, because there is zero evidence that she wanted a rape fantasy except in the messages that the au pair already told us she and Brendan Banfield sent. Perhaps a better legal defense would be that the au pair was the catfisher. The au pair was the mastermind, the jealous side piece who wanted to take Christine's place, and that Brendan Banfield had nothing to do with it. Perhaps that's better. But this theory, this defense theory that Christine Banfield wanted some strange man to assault and rape her, I don't buy for a second. Did you know that Christine Banfield worked as a sex assault nurse examiner early in her nursing career? That's right, she helped sex assault survivors, doing rape kits, being around trauma victims in their most terrifying experiences. You think she would want to trade places? She also had a blood condition that her dad told the jury about, how she always knew she had to be extra careful not to be cut. It could be deadly for her if she bled excessively. Bottom line, she wouldn't engage in dangerous knife play. So it seems to me that Mr. Taxman wants to make things worse for himself by having that expert lay the groundwork for a no catfishing story. He would have been smarter to just blame the au pair. Because you know what, my friends, victim blaming is something that I bet is not going to go over well with this jury. That's my opening statement on this Monday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, time for your daily docket.
I try to be a nice guy, and so, you know, if he's talking to me, I'm going to have a conversation with him back.
Was he nice to you?
Yeah.
Does your family have a nickname from that? A nickname?
Yeah, yes, there was one at one point.
What was it?
Olaf.
Why did you call him Olaf?
Because they wanted to talk about him in front of the kids and not give away who they were talking about.
Oh my, in Utah, we've got the family murder plot trial. Some people call it the case like the Utah Adelsons. It continues at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Defendant Kevin Ellis accused of killing his brother-in-law in an alleged plot involving his sister and his mother. In New Jersey, we've got testimony resuming tomorrow in the Mansion murders trial for defendant Paul Canero. In Virginia, court's dark today due to the severe weather situation going on there in the au pair affair murder trial. So again, those cases happening tomorrow. We hope you're staying safe and warm wherever you are. And we're going to begin in Virginia this morning as we expect to hear defendant Brendan Banfield take the stand.
Is the defendant going to testify, Mr. Kara?
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me?
Yes.
He is going to testify.
We haven't heard much from the defendant so far, only heard his voice on that 911 call. We know that he's being accused of murdering his wife, Christine, and murdering another man named Joseph Ryan in a staged home invasion. The au pair told the jury this was an elaborate plot so that they could carry on with their affair. So can we expect to happen when Brendan Banfield gets up there on the stand? Will he actually go through with it? You know, I mean, he can back out. It's not too late to change his mind. The jury didn't hear that, just we heard that. That was in front of the judge. What do you think about this? Hit us up on your favorite social media platform. Let us know. I want to bring in my legal eagles now, see what they say. Attorneys Tommy Pope and Mario Gallucci, two high-profile attorneys joining us. Good morning to you both. Oh, this guy getting up there on the stand. How is this going to go? Mario, would you start us off, please?
So I think the defense here is going for what's called a heat of passion defense. And when you go for a heat of passion defense, there needs to be evidence during the trial for the judge to be able to give that instruction to the jury. And so far, there is no evidence that I've seen that would support this. So the only way that they're going to get a jury charge or a jury instruction of heat of passion is if he takes the stand and he testifies to whatever he testifies to. I actually agree with your opening statement, Julie, where I think it might have been better off with him going with the au pair did this whole thing and he came home and this is what he saw. But, you know, I believe the defense in this case believes they did very well on the forensic evidence, and they're going to go for it. They're taking it, they're doing a Hail Mary here and putting him on the stand and seeing if he could pull it off.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, Mario, a Hail Mary. Speaking of the forensic evidence, I've got a clip from their expert who says no catfishing. Tommy, let's take a look. I'll come to you on the other side.
Based upon your review of this data, were you able to draw any opinions related to this case?
I was.
And what were those opinions?
That catfishing did not occur.
Okay. Tommy Pope, you were an investigator. You served with SLED in South Carolina. Your thoughts on this? Was this at all surprising to you? This expert came in on Friday and said catfishing never happened?
You didn't hear that sound, Julie. It was cha-ching. He just made his payment for being an expert. He delivered what he had to deliver. I think that's difficult. I was thinking back to what you guys were saying. If you'd have laid it on the au pair, you could have still used that's how I got called home, that's how I come to the house. But if you just happen to come on your wife in some acting out affair situation, I think the au pair calling you home from McDonald's and all of that, I think he either needed to stick with his original story, but he's missing some parts. And so I don't think, like I said, if you laid it at the lap of the au pair, then you could have all the same facts, that messing with the computer when she was there. But it was very elaborate, and it's going to be exciting to watch him testify just for the fun of observing.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. This is going to be something else. Let's go back to really the only time we heard his voice on that 911 call.
And what's your name and what's going on?
My name is Brendan Banfield. I'm a federal agent. This is my house. There's somebody here. I shot him. But he stabbed her. She's bleeding. She's got several marks on her neck. What do I do?
Okay, Mario. Thinking about prepping a client who wants to take the stand like this, I can't imagine what kind of efforts counsel would have to go through with him because of the complexity of the facts and just the wild nature of this. Talk to us, please, about how you would do it with Brendan Banfield if you're his counsel.
So the au pair's testimony is critical here because he's got to go against what she basically said happened, which is that he planned this whole plot. So I would really go through her testimony. He's got to be much more credible than she is. And he did that in that 911 call. If you notice, the first thing out of his mouth was, I'm a federal agent. He didn't say he was a tax agent. He said he was a federal agent. that was very interesting to me, that the first words out of his mouth were, "I'm a federal agent," trying to give himself immediate credibility. So I would, as defense prepping him, I would try to stay away from him saying that immediately. I would give his background. You know, I was an accountant, I was a CPA, I worked for the IRS, and go from there and set up the facts the way he could do it. Is credibility. This is all credibility right now. He must look better than her. And if he does, who knows what'll happen.
Yeah, great points, Mario. Tell me, the prosecution, look at this for me from the perspective of the members on that team. They must be chomping at the bit to get a hold of this guy. How's that going to go for them, Tommy?
I think particularly with the intricate details involved, I'm sure other attorneys would, not Mario, would just say, tell the truth. Well, let me say that backwards. I'm sure Mario would tell his client to tell the truth, but truth can not set you free in this instance. But I think the key with the prosecution, the best cross-examinations are when you're not over-eager. You know, you sit there and you listen and you're making notes and you can't wait to run up there, and you can stumble over yourself. I think a slow, methodical cross, when I say slow, not necessarily long, but you just pick the points. And you're going to know fairly early how the jury feels about him, watching their faces, watching what he's saying, whether he's coming across as credible. In other words, you have to be careful putting your opinion ahead of the jury's opinion, because the jury may like him. And if they do, you got to hit it a different way. And so I think listening, slow rolling, you got a lot of detail. I cannot imagine, as Mario said, that the stories can mesh while still countering the things you need to with the all pairs. So I think it's open for the possibility of a tremendously effective cross.
Yeah, definitely, Tommy, well said. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow may be the day. But you know, this morning, we're not done talking about this case. Tommy and Mario, stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. We'll continue our coverage of the au pair affair murder trial straight ahead.
So he didn't want to get divorced. Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her.
We're learning more about victim Christine Banfield and the tragic irony in this case. Plus, the man accused of murdering his ex-wife and her husband at their home in Columbus while the children were inside pleads not guilty. Family members speaking out now on how the kids are coping. A husband is shot to death, but was his killing a family affair? We're breaking down the twisted alleged conspiracy that's playing out in a Utah courtroom.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Did an affair with the family's au pair lead to double murder?
He was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The au pair affair murder trial continues Tuesday morning on Court TV.
Do you recall what device he used to create the FetLife account?
It was the laptop.
And when you say the laptop, are you talking about Christine's laptop?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall the name of the profile that the defendant created for the FetLife account?
Anastasia Knight.
And was there a photograph added to that profile?
Yes.
Who is the photograph of?
It's Christine's body in a bathing suit.
We're learning more about victim Christine Banfield in the au pair affair murder trial. The Virginia mother was allegedly murdered in a twisted rape fantasy frame job, all allegedly orchestrated by her husband. Now, here's the tragic irony. The 37-year-old worked as a nurse for sex assault victims. That's right, early in her career, she did that. According to her LinkedIn account, she spent 2 years around 2015 as a sexual assault nurse examiner. Sometimes you hear the acronym SANE, S-A-N-E nurse. This was in Long Island. Christine then went on to serve as a supervisor overseeing nurses in that role as part of a domestic violence program. How about that? How wonderful. Years later, this is what's so sickening. Christine would endure the same trauma that she spent years helping other women overcome when a strange man slipped into her home with a knife and attempted to assault her in her bed. She bled to death after being stabbed with a knife. Let's just let this sink in. This is a woman who helped trauma victims, rape victims. Do you think she would ask to be raped? Do you think she would partake in this kind of fantasy? Ask yourself that question. Let's bring in domestic violence expert, former law enforcement officer, Claudia King. Claudia, good morning to you. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts to share on this, hearing this information, background about Christine Banfield. What do you think about that question of whether she would be inclined to do this? And Claudia, we're having trouble hearing you. If you'll double check and make sure you're not muted, we're going to see if we can repair Claudia's audio. I have a clip from the au pair, Juliana Magalis, talking about this plot, this awful situation. Let's take a look and see if we can get Claudia's audio fixed up.
So he didn't want to get divorced. Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her. I was just crouching down on myself and covering my ears and covering my eyes. And a few times I looked and I was able to see him stabbing her. And he would stab, and other times he would hold the knife.
I'm going to bring back in Claudia King, a domestic violence expert. Okay, we got everything situated now with your mic, so if you'll take it from the top for us, share your thoughts, please.
Absolutely. So, Julie, I really don't think this is something that Christine Banfield would have wanted, and there's several reasons why. So, first off, you mentioned that she was a SANE, or a sexual assault nurse examiner. So she saw the worst of the worst. She saw women who had just gone through the most traumatic moments of their lives, and she helped them through that. Now, we have to think about why she would have gone into that work. For a lot of people, it's because they have experienced something like that in their past and they've overcome it, so they want to help others. So that could be why she went into it. So if she was assaulted at some point, there's a strong likelihood that this is not something that she would then want to go through. And the last reason I would say is for women that do have a rape fantasy, and that does exist, it is generally because they want to experience a relinquishing of power in a safe environment. And a safe environment is not with someone that you don't even know, that you met over the internet and have never seen in person. And you would have a safe word if you were going to do something like that. So for all these reasons, I just don't think this is something that Christine would have done in her life and would have willfully submitted to. If what the prosecution is alleging is true, Brendan Banfield is an absolute monster and worse than a lot of the murdering husbands that we've seen before, because to make his wife go through such a tragic event before killing her is just unconscionable.
It really is. You said that so perfectly, Claudia. And thinking about the last moments of her life, which I'm sure you've thought a lot about as you've been analyzing the facts and the evidence, I keep thinking about how terrified this woman must have been to be sleeping at 7 in the morning. Some stranger comes into her house. And now that we know more about her background, this is somebody who is informed on trauma, somebody who, as you said, has seen it day in and day out. I mean, SANE nurses they're godsends. They're like angels, to help victims get through the most terrifying experiences of their life. What a way to die. I mean, I just keep thinking of how cruel this was. If he did this and set this up, I'm in agreement with you that he is a monster, and he's lucky he's not getting the death penalty.
I totally agree with you, because imagine, Julie, that she is experiencing what you just said. This man breaks into her home and he begins to attack her with a knife, and her husband rushes in, and you can just imagine that feeling of relief that she must have felt, if this is true, that, oh my gosh, Brendan is here to save me. And then he murders her. I can't even imagine what those last moments would have been like. And I just take heart in knowing she's in a better place now and does not have to deal with him any longer.
That's true. That's true. God rest her soul. Claudia, I was talking with my friends and colleagues on the Odyssey station back in Pittsburgh just moments before I started to do my show here, and was sharing with them the details about this, and they were so stunned. They said, we think this is the most stunning story we've ever heard on our air, and certainly the most stunning trial you've ever brought to us. Each week we talk about the different cases we have. If you had to pick one thing, Claudia, what would you say is the most shocking thing investigators learned through this whole investigation?
Gosh, there's a lot to pick from in this investigation, but I think the most shocking thing would be the deviousness of setting up this account, pretending to be your wife, and engaging in contacting people to have her be raped. I think if that is accurate, and I do believe it is, then that is incredibly shocking. I've never seen a case like it before, and it's just the worst of the worst. And Brendan, if true, is the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, my friend. Claudia, tell me, is there anything else with this catfishing plot that the defense is saying doesn't exist, that you're thinking stinks, essentially, for lack of a better word? Is there anything about it to you that's like jumping out, my friend, that you're like, no, not feeling this?
Yes. So the first thing, and I don't know all of the communications via Telegram and FetLife, but a safe word would be the first and foremost thing in any type of, out of the box sexual play. You always want to have a safe word. So that would be the first thing. But what also struck me is the defense expert talked about how you can't put devices in someone's hands and this, that, and the other, but then claimed, well, Brendan must have been here because his phone was here, or Juliana must have been over here because her phone was there. So you can't have it both ways. If you can't say one person was on a phone over here, you can't say Brendan was certainly at the gym just because his phone checked in there. So that kind of stinks to me as well. The fact that they never wanted to meet this person, if you were going to do something like this, you would certainly want to meet this stranger ahead of time and see them for yourself. All of that stuff just stinks to me.
Yeah, it does. And I love what you said about the lack of a safe word. I'm so glad you brought that up, Claudia. I haven't heard anybody else come on the air and say that. You're the first analyst I've heard to say that. And I thank you for that, because these prosecutors ought to zero in on that and say, this, look at how this was set up. The intention was to keep going no matter what, no matter how much she screamed or seemed terrified. It was, you finish the job, essentially. You do this. And so you're right. If she was going to engage in that in the way that's, safely done, as you explained to us, in situations where somebody can feel like they're structuring a safe environment to have that kind of situation, that is always a part of it. So that's huge. The prosecution's got to dig in on that, and the fact that she was a SANE nurse. Why they didn't say that in opening statements, I have no idea. We just found out on Friday, so we thought, oh my God, we're talking about this on Monday for sure with you. Claudia King, always a great conversation. Folks, follow Claudia. She has a podcast about domestic violence. It's called Strong Enough. Be sure to check it out. Claudia, we'll talk soon. Friends at home, don't go anywhere except maybe to get a little more coffee. When we come back, here's what's next.
They knocked on the front door and back door multiple times, and there was no answer.
Yeah, no answer. I can hear kids inside, and I swear I think I heard one yell, but we can't get in. At this point, I don't know if I need to break the door in or just get in the house or what.
Oh, we got brand new information all about the arrest in the murders of the Columbus dentist and his wife. That's coming right up. Plus, the federal trial for accused assassin Luigi Mangione is a go. We have a trial date now set.
What's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Rosario. Rosario? Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious.
We're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
I can hear kids inside, and I swear I think I heard one yell.
What's changed since the last person I talked to?
There's a body. There's a body.
There's a body inside?
Yeah.
Welcome back to Opening Statements. In our spotlight this morning, we're talking about the case in Columbus, Ohio that's captivated attention all around the world. And we're learning more about the arrest of the vascular surgeon turned alleged killer. His name is Dr. Michael McKee. He's pleaded not guilty to the murder of his ex-wife, Monique Tepe, and her husband, Dr. Spencer Tepe. Now, McKee appeared in court via Zoom. This is the video from it on Friday. His attorney, though, did all the talking.
Your Honor, with respect to the allegations, we would acknowledge receipt, waive reading, enter not guilty pleas to all counts contained therein. We would also waive bond at this time, although we certainly reserve the right to raise that at a later date. The plea of not guilty form has been executed and signed on behalf of my client. Nothing further.
Thank you, counsel. I've signed the not guilty plea. I'm signing the bond form indicating that bond has been waived.
The Tepes were killed on December 30th in their home. Their 2 children were left unharmed, so was their dog. And yet another murder suspect arrested on a fast food run, as we're learning this morning. Apparently, Dr. McKee was taken into custody at a Chick-fil-A near his office in Illinois. You'll remember Luigi Mangione was arrested at a McDonald's. Let's talk about this all. Let's bring in our guest. Still with me, attorney and retired investigator Tommy Pope, and let's welcome in retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer. Good morning to you both. Jen, I'll start with you. Talk to us about what it's like tracking down a suspect once you've identified your suspect, getting them into custody and doing it safely.
Right. The most important thing you just pointed out is safely. That means not only safety for the agents involved, but safety for the individual you're arresting and safety for all of those around. I would believe they had him under surveillance and felt that they had the opportunity to go ahead and arrest him in an environment where he would be the most unsuspecting. We use 3 words: speed, surprise, and violence of action, meaning you go swiftly, you surprise the individual. And when I say violence of action, a showing that there is no way that if they resist, they're going to win. So I think they well affected this arrest.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing about what you both have done in your careers. We thank you both for your service. Tommy, I know you did a lot of undercover work. Curious, in an operation like this, where they had zeroed in on the suspect, they're watching him, he's getting his Chick-fil-A, can't blame him for that. Do you use undercover agents? Do you use people to kind of go in the Chick-fil-A and look like they're just eating, but they're there to help affect the arrest?
Well, just to dovetail on what Jennifer's saying, you're really trying to just assess how you can pull it off, because you're confident that you can accomplish the arrest based on your training, but how you can pull it off with the least danger to bystanders. And so, it could be something as simple as waiting till he goes to the bathroom. And again, not being a uniformed officer there, but oftentimes too, the suspect may be far away from the crime scene and not think law enforcement is there for them. So, the fact that you may see a patrol car in the parking lot, they may think they're getting Chick-fil-A too, Julie. So you're really just wanting to get as close, because a fumble by law enforcement, not being close enough to lay hands on them or allowing them to escape. I mean, they can create hostage situations and create danger to others. And you've already had a horrendous crime. You want to make sure, and you know what you believe this individual to be capable of. You don't want to amplify that with innocent bystanders.
Right, great points, Tommy, thank you. Let's talk a bit about the kids now. So the Teppies' relatives say that the little baby was probably in his crib for hours. This just breaks your heart, crying after the murders. He was in a separate room from his 3-year-old sister. The family's assuming that the children didn't see what happened. Their uncle talked about how the family's trying to help the children cope. Let's take a listen.
Don't know how to tell a 4-year-old that they're never going to see their mom and your daddy again. And it's, how do you? And how does the 4-year-old understand, right? They have to grow as a person and develop that understanding of what death is, and you never truly understand it. But right now, it's just like, mommy and daddy, you're in heaven? Well, I want to go to heaven. You know, like, it's just it's a developmental understanding that you need to grow up and get older to get a better basis of, and, you know, it's just going to take time. We understand that.
Oh my gosh, it's so heartbreaking. So we know there's a GoFundMe as well that's raised so far more than $235,000 for the Teppies' children. Ooh, this is just, it's just so sad. Jen Coffindar, I want to go back to you with the suspect who left the children alone, whoever it was. If it was this Dr. Michael McKee, as police say, it was, you know, for so many days, it seemed like there was no information being given out. Now, looking back, do you think that police were onto this from the outset and had zeroed in on him far sooner than we learned?
I don't think so. And I say that based on the fact that they released that video footage out in the alley. Typically, when you hear silence from law enforcement in terms of pleas to the public, that tells me they are on to somebody. They really believe they know who did this. I think the tipping point in this investigation was that vehicle. His vehicle that was found near the scene. I think that is what really led investigators. And I want to say, Julie, it is a miracle, likely, that somebody this unhinged that was capable of committing these murders didn't completely annihilate the family. I just have to be honest, I am so grateful that the children were left to live, because somebody this unhinged could have done far worse.
That's a really great point, Jen. Thank you for that. That's a really great point. Yeah. Those poor children, and you know, and from what we've seen, you know, they look like such a lovely family now that's taking care of the children. We've seen Rob Misley speaking out often, and we know the children are in great hands. Sadly, not with their parents, but at least loved. Tommy, let me go back to you. At the arraignment, we didn't hear a peep out of Dr. Michael McKee. We only heard from his attorney, who we've seen before try a case on court TV. She's good. What did you think of that? Was that what you expected, that we would see her doing all the talking?
Yeah, I think, you know, at this point, Julie, you know, they came back, I believe, from extradition, and they're really just checking boxes now. You know, it's probably rare, even if someone is intending to plea, that they would plead at that stage. And so, you know, you heard the judge say, I've signed the not guilty plea. And so it's the mechanical framework they're doing. You notice they didn't ask for a bond hearing. You know, normally, you know, risk of flight's one of the concerns you have there. And so the fact that, you know, he was out of state and extradited was, you know, would lean against that. And so I would think the defense attorney doesn't want to start, you know, trying to make arguments she knows she's going to lose right here at the outset, till she can really kind of get the case together and the defense together and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tommy, thank you for that. Jen, let me go back to you, please, and ask you about the ballistics. You're also a firearms expert, trainer. What do you think in terms of how well the ballistics evidence is going to be able to link this Dr. McKee to the crime scene?
Well, this is the deal. We already know that, at least preliminarily, those casings went back to a gun he had. What does that mean? It means the ejector mark, the extractor mark, and the firing pin hit matches. Now, what does that mean? I explain it like a cookie cutter. So imagine you have a Christmas tree cookie cutter and you smash and you make that indentations that make a Christmas tree for a cookie. It's similar to that because you have these marks that they're called tool marks that the extractor, ejector, and that pin hit that are fairly unique to the gun. It's not a fingerprint, Julie, but it's a good indication.
Oh, I love that analogy you just gave us, Jen. I'm going to remember that in cases going forward. It's like making an impression in the cookie to the marking unique to the cutter you're using. Thank you kindly for that. Great insight from you both. As always, Jen Coffindeffer, thank you much. Tommy Pope, thank you. And we'll see you on Court TV Live. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
What we have is a human being whose right to a fair, unbiased trial has been tarnished from the get-go. There's so much conjecture about this case that it really would be impossible for him to have a jury of his peers. And so I'm really hoping for jury nullification.
So what will jury selection look like in the federal trial for Luigi Mangione? They got the trial date picked. We're talking about the case next.
Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair.
So he killed his wife and another man.
He was there, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage continues Tuesday morning on Court TV.
What did you do it? And it's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and its lived experience.
Now, for what's tipping the scales of justice, Luigi Mangione is fighting the efforts to have the contents of his backpack used against him in his federal murder trial. The suspect in the deadly shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was in court on Friday for the continuation of his suppression hearing, where his attorneys are trying to make the argument that police illegally searched his backpack. Scripps News correspondent Alex Miller reports.
Luigi Mangione, the 27-year-old accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, was back in a federal courtroom Friday morning, fighting the government's efforts to use his backpack and its contents against him. His lawyers say that Altoona Police Department illegally searched his backpack without a search warrant, and inside of it they found a gun, ammunition, silencers, and a journal, amongst other things. Mangione once again calm in federal court Friday, wearing a tan prison jumpsuit as his attorney Mark Agnifilo argued the Altoona Police Department did not have guidelines for searching property at the time of Mangione's arrest. The Altoona Police Department's general order, the rule book for officers, explains in detail, according to Agnifilo, of how to search a person once they have been arrested. It details reminders to look through their jacket, their belt, and more, but never mentions how to handle property not on their body, like a backpack. Deputy Chief Nathan Snyder testified in court that if his officers found a gun or ammunition while conducting a search, like they did in this case, they would probably immediately stop and obtain a search warrant. He contradicted himself when the government asked if they'd continue to search to make sure the property was safe, and he said yes. The judge has already set jury selection for September 8th. If she throws out the death penalty charge, trial will start in October. If she doesn't, it will start in January 2027. Alex Miller, Scripps News Group, New York.
All right, jury selection coming up on September the 8th for the federal trial. Let's talk about this and that process to get the jury picked. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci with us, does a lot of high-profile cases up there. You practice in that court. You're probably going there, well, if the courthouse is open. Maybe you're going there today. I don't know, my friend. So talk to me here. What do you think about them getting this jury? Do you think we're going to be able to find a fair and impartial jury to hear the trial?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're in the Southern District of New York. It's, you got a large population of people to pull from for that jury. So I don't think it's going to be a problem getting people there to be a jury. I think jury selection is going to be very interesting in the case. You know, Mark and Karen are very good attorneys. I actually look forward to maybe watching some of the jury selection to see what they're going to look for in a jury. I mean, I believe they'll probably look for people motivated by social issues, people, you know, that are frustrated with the healthcare industry. I mean, if this evidence is not suppressed, they're probably more likely looking for like a jury nullification defense, which is extremely difficult.
Right, Mario. Let's talk a little bit about the evidence in the backpack. Any thoughts on this? Do you think that they have a good argument here, that they're trying to say that police should have gotten a warrant for that backpack in the McDonald's? I can help a little bit with a clip. We have a body camera footage clip when they're approaching him. Let's take a look at that, and then Mario, I'll have you speak to the legal issue on the other side.
Yes, sir. There you go. Here, put your mask down real quick for me. Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. What's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Missouri. Sorry. Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious. Oh, sorry. Should your ID on you? Yes, sir. Thanks. I thought she looked like someone, guilty to...
Okay, false IDs there, as we know, eventually taken into custody with no problems. And they searched that backpack, as they say, incident to arrest, to make sure there aren't any weapons, explosives, anything that can harm them. It's sitting on the chair right next to him as he's sitting there eating his Egg McMuffin or whatever he had. Mario, who's right here, who's wrong?
Well, I think it's highly unlikely that backpack evidence is going to be suppressed. I mean, there are two arguments. You know, Mark is making the argument that they could have gotten a warrant, that they, you know, if they were really in fear of their safety, why were they letting people going in and out of the restaurant at the time? So how fearful of their safety were they? The problem here is that you don't know. You don't know if you're law enforcement, and the way that this crime occurred on video, you don't know what kind of things he could be in possession of. So, you know, the safety issue is an issue. But more importantly, it would have been inevitably discovered anyway during what's typically called an inventory search. Once he's brought to the local station house or precinct, they would have searched the backpack to inventory everything that was in it to make sure that everything in it goes back to him and they can never be accused of taking everything from him. So that's, you know, typical inventory search. So the evidence that was discovered in that backpack would have eventually been discovered anyway. And that's what the government's argument is, that one, safety, and two, inevitable discovery through an inventory search.
That's a really great point, Mario. They would have found it anyways. And so you think when it's all said and done, likely this evidence is going to come in, the journal, all of that. Do you think the defense has any hope of getting the death penalty off the table?
That's a tough one. I mean, they're really trying to get the death penalty off the table. You know, he has the state case going also. So, you know, if they get the death penalty off the table, the state's still going to go after him. There's no death penalty, as you know, in New York, but there is the death penalty in the federal system, although it's very rarely used. You know, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for Mark and Karen to remove the death penalty issue, and then we're going to get a trial in January, as opposed to earlier this year, later this year.
Right. Great analysis from you as per usual. Mario Gallucci, thank you so much. You stay safe up there in New York. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, friends. We're so glad you were here. Don't go anywhere. If you like the show, watch it again. We put them up there every day for you on courttv.com.